It's Mari McInerney from Croaky here at the Lowicha Institute's Knowledge Translation Forum, and I have two of the presenters of very special projects that were showcased here today. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourselves?
Thanks, Mari. Yuala Budabai Dundagu, Na Nula Nugala Yentalalu. Hi, I'm Vicki Saunders. I'm a Gungari woman from southern Queensland, a little town called Mitchell in southwest Queensland. And that's all I had to say.
Nara. I'm Bianca Beetson. I'm a proud Cubby woman from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, but I also have connections to the Wiradjuri, Gimilaroi and Kukuyalanji people.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Now you presented, as somebody said, on listening as embodied knowledge translation. Can you talk about the project that you presented on today?
Well, I guess listening for us, that's what attracted us all to this work. We're a group of multidisciplinary researchers working across very different spaces, but all interested in the way that knowledge is inherently felt in the body. When we know when something is, you know in a different way. So that's what attracted us all together to work on this. You know.
And for me, I think being a visual artist, I'm always harping on about us privileging the visual way too much. And I think, again, being an Indigenous artist, one of the things that we really do is we do more than just think about the visual. You know, we can't just ignore listening. And, to me, listening is highly important. And it is a way that we can connect. I said, the whole thing with listening is even without the visual, the sounds create the images in our own heads.
Can you talk about then what the actual project involved? You went into a women's prison, a remand centre, yeah?
Yes. So we went into the Brisbane Women's Correctional Centre, which is currently a remand centre, and we did, I think it was about 10 workshops. It was quite an intensive project. It wasn't originally intended to be intensive. And we did a range of different activities, and those activities were really important around building trust with the women, because you can't just go in and expect to leap to this really important sort of point where we're talking about deep knowledge and trying to get information out of people when there's no trust. So a lot of the activities were they built upon us extracting knowledge from the women, which became quite an easy process, really, and easier than what we expected. So the idea was we did, I'm just trying to think, we did drawing workshops, post-it note poetry, which I absolutely love. I'm a bit obsessed with it now. I've always had a post-it note obsession, so now I've moved into the poetry realm. And then looking at things like music workshops and percussion, and getting them to actually create sounds of nature with their bodies. And we had them recording each other. I mean, there was a big transformation in the day that we actually had women recording each other, and you're listening to each other's heartbeats and breath, and trying to create sounds. So we wanted as much as we could to have some of those sounds that were used in the audio or the soundscape actually created by the women themselves in the prisons. Did you want to add anything?
No, not really. I think you've covered it all. But the poetry, the river of sound, the river of words, that was profound for me.
Can you describe that?
The way it organically turned into the river that mimics the actual river that the prison is near. So we didn't ask the women to do it the way that it ended up being. They put the post-it notes on the ground. They wrote out sounds that were connected to places of belonging for them. I think Bianca's talked about that a little bit before, but so when they organically just started putting the post-it notes down in different ways and putting them in themes, and then when they finished, it actually was a river, and it looks so much like the Maiwa, the Brisbane River, that we were near. It was just incredible.
Now, there's a theory of sound, and you said it's a growing thing across disciplines, but it was also about tapping into or addressing the soundscape of a prison, yeah? Can you talk to that?
The soundscape of a prison has to be felt to be understood. So I had no idea how intrusive the sounds that are all around you can be. Like, I've been in a prison, but not to that extent. And that particular prison it's like they designed the room to overwhelm you with ugly sounds of toilets flushing, of crashing doors, of just, and it's
duress alarms.
Duress alarms.
I mean,
and it's so intrusive.
Yeah.
And it jars in the body when you're there. It really took a lot out of me.
I mean, the amount of time when we were trying to record, things were interrupted by, the sound of the toilet was this, it was like the one in the planes you had, they go, and then you had this really incredible, these duress alarms. Every 5 seconds, someone's duress alarm was going off, and we were flying around the room trying to switch them off. So it sort of made it really hard for us as facilitators also to be relaxed, and we were being constantly reminded of the space we were in. And for us, from a cultural perspective, we really kept, complaining about these duress alarms all the time, especially with the elders wearing them. So, that was kind of one of those things that also didn't help with that creation of trust. Us walking with these duress alarms go beep, 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 beep. And one of the girls kept saying, you've got to stop that, otherwise the Ninja Turtles will come in. And so that's what we called them all from then on, was the Ninja Turtles.
And the politics of sound, could you talk about that and how it is a growing a focus of research?
It's not really my area. We did present at the Politics of Listening conference in Sydney last year, which is about voice. It's more about the politics of voice in many ways, that particular conference. But it is about how, like for instance, when I'm speaking, by definition, I'm silencing you. Yeah, because you're not there's a dynamic that goes on. Like I said, it's not my area of expertise, but the politics of sound is something that Dr. Leah Barclay is really involved in. And particularly, I don't know if you know more about it, Bianca, but there's sound. There are things that the councils are doing to create sound along the Brisbane River that are interfering with the habitats of bats and birds and changing the environment, the sonic environment that fish live in. And so it all has an impact on their well-being and on ours, and yet she's in, I don't know, there's an element of politics there of trying to get them to think about these loudspeakers that they're putting in different places. And so I don't know if that's relevant to what your question is about, but it's one of the examples that Leah's been involved in.
But I also think in this particular instance, we use sound as a form of asserting our cultural sovereignty.
Yes, sorry, that's it.
And can you expand on that?
Really, because it's about, again, reclaiming our space and our place, as Aboriginal people, and kind of asserting what is important to us back in that place. So, for those ladies, it's giving them their cultural sovereignty in a space that they have no rights. So, that's one way of being able to access their culture and their agency in a place where they've had all rights removed.
And you talked also about where you go from here, and it'll be interesting with this project, but just that you see opportunities in many other settings where the sound is really jarring, difficult.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hospitals are a great example. I mean, I don't know how many people have tried to sleep there for one night. With hospitals, there's constant, someone, there's beepers going off, there's nurses, even just the nurses chatting at their stations. So, I can imagine if people were spending a long time in hospital, it would really, really actually affect your mental health after a while and your sense of well-being. And how are people supposed to heal when they're constantly being interrupted and disrupted? And it's probably about disruption. And so how can we disrupt the sounds within within the hospital, within the built environment, and a whole range of stuff? So how can we look at this, disrupting these sounds? And as we talked about earlier on, the hospitals, working in hospitals would be a really good place for this for future.
There is a body of work that's actually going on around that, where they actually have the biofeedback monitors put on people who are undergoing cancer treatment and other things like that, they actually get better results with immersive soundscapes. There's a woman who's developing up an immersive sound room down here somewhere in Victoria around midwifery for mothers, especially mothers who've lost babies. So creating sound spaces for people to, because it's so connected to well-being.
Just a final question, really, about your any lessons on knowledge translation that you think other researchers should consider?
I mean, I think one of the most important things is think about what is knowledge. You know, people kind of expect knowledge it's two questions. It's what is knowledge and what is research? And, you know, as an academic that works in the arts, you know, that's a big discussion and debate we often have, especially when we're trying to get funding for different opportunities, and also trying to actually justify our research outputs. So as artists, and particularly Indigenous artists, you know, what was integral to our culture, you know, we had a holistic culture. You know, we didn't have things compartmentalised like we have nowadays. So what we kind of need to consider is our arts was an integral and important part of our culture. As was listening, you know, as song, dance, music, everything was all part of our well-being and our way of being. So for us to kind of then, you know, so I think, you know, from a Western perspective, we need to be sort of saying to people, actually, the research we're doing, which, you know, and in this case, you know, our knowledge we created was the soundscape, that it is valuable research, and, you know, there's probably you know, a lot more, and as we progress through the knowledge translation point, we'll actually get a better understanding of the actual quantifiable output of what we're doing.
What about you, Vicki? Any takeaways from today around knowledge translation? And I didn't point out, it's a very new project, isn't it?
We're not even really finished.
Yeah.
We've just done the first pilot stage of it, and there's a lot of work we're doing to embed and to extract some of the learnings from this. But it was a question I wanted to ask you today at the Lowacha conference, actually, but I wasn't sure if it was the right forum to ask it. We encountered, the nature of the work we're doing is located in the arts-informed research space, and we encountered such challenges. It took 2 years to get this project into the prison. It was a 6-month project. It took 2 years to explain and to have this, because it's an ongoing challenge in communicating with people who are wanting us to do randomised controlled trials in a space where that's an inappropriate method for the type of research question we're asking. And so I wanted to ask, how do we navigate these spaces in between the arts and the more traditional understandings of what science is? Because sometimes it's a challenge to get through the ethics committees, the other committees that you have to, and there's no criticism of people, it's just the way we explain the nature of the work and the paradigm of research we're working in can be really challenging for others who insist on us fitting into the box. And it's circles and squares. What we're trying to do, we've almost compromised. I mean, I know that's my personal opinion, but we almost compromised the actual proposed project to the point of it being not what we originally proposed because of the nature of being asked to fit into a square box. Yeah, what we're trying to do has a spiritual dimension to it, has a whole other dimension to it. That's. And
do you have any solutions to that question? Do you feel that you got there, or is compromise, is that the answer?
I think it was amazing that we pulled it off. I mean, I think that was the key, having these 4 people with 4 different backgrounds, with all these different experiences. And, you know, every day there was a new challenge. You know, it was like we said, life's like a box of chocolates, you know, you never know what you're going to get. That was sort of, you know, it was different. Every day there was a challenge, and it was always something blocking us. But luckily we're these determined, strong women who were going, no, we will find a way. And we just were always in troubleshooting mode. How can we do this? How can we do this? We had a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and it just kept going. and we weren't going to stop. And I think that was, one of the really important things that we did. And I wouldn't want to have been a smaller team. I originally thought there were 6 of us really, because we had the 2 elders as well. I thought, oh wow, sometimes, I thought we're going to outnumber the women, there's going to be more of us than them. But it was actually really important because we all played a significant role in some way or shape, of whether it's troubleshooting, whether it was dealing with something when something else was going on, or, we all sort of had times where we were doing different things that in the room, outside the room, even just getting in through the gates. And I think, one of the ways that we can help change this sort of thing is by actually, speaking at important things like today through knowledge translation conferences, but also just actually, awareness, and keep doing projects and don't give up. You just, no matter how hard it gets, you just got to keep swimming, Nemo.
And can I add, in answer to your question, the thing that makes it work, and that's what you're talking about, is relationships. We built on strong relationships between the key researchers, but what the elders, it would never have worked without Auntie Melita and Auntie Estelle and the elders group supporting us and backing us. What they bring is those connections, those relationships that they already have with place, with families, with community, with the prison, with the staff. So that's what made it work. That's what helped us navigate some very complicated spaces in that environment. Yeah.
They totally opened the doors, which sort of short-circuited that length of time that it would normally take to build up trust.
Yeah.
We'd be able to walk in, and I had the aunties, and they helped with the whole cultural relationship building that we normally would want. Because when you're doing Aboriginal projects, you have to take time, and time was not of the essence that we had in this particular project as well.
Where can people follow your work?
We have a website called www.listeningtocountry.com. We do apologise, there's actually not much to see there at the moment, but it'll be growing, and the more the more events and things that happen, of course, we'll be building on the website.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Moni.